stakeholders we met today were raising concerns on the diabolical activities surrounding the Zamstats summary report of the census 2022.
Okay.
And this diabolical event is the decision by government to use the chairman of the Civil Service Commission, Dr. Beane, to rubbish the report and to declare it null and void. This has never happened in the history of Zambia, and to my knowledge, it has never happened anywhere in the world where a census report prepared by government, by a wing of government, is disputed by government itself. This is unprecedented. And the revelations by Beane that the Zamstats were not supposed to have released that report before heeding the instructions of the head of state, that the head of state gave them instructions to change the data. This raises a lot of anxiety in the people, because what is the validity of the report? How can that report be relied upon if we're being told that the head of state was giving instructions on the manipulation of data? This is the reason why the various opposition political parties, civil society organizations, and faith-based organizations decided to address this matter at the press briefing that was held earlier this evening. And I have to add that a census is conducted following laid down international procedures. And those procedures must be met so that the report itself is respected internationally, because the data that is provided through a census is not only data that is used by the local country, it is data that is relied upon by the international community. The United Nations, for example, in making decisions on how to handle issues that affect the international community, will rely on data that is provided by the various sovereign states. And if it appears, as it is appearing now, that data that is provided by sovereign states is manipulated, then it loses its efficacy, it loses its credibility. And if it loses its credibility, then nobody will respect it, nobody will use it. What that will call for is a new census. And in this particular case, I am of the view that because this report has been declared null and void by government, then we ought to re-engage stakeholders. And as things stand, we therefore may actually be doing well to reconstitute the Zamstats board and to reconstitute the people who are going to collect the data, and the people who are going to analyze the data and present it. Because I don't think that I personally would rely on the data that has been presented by the Zamstats, given the fact that Beane has told us already, has told the country that that report is subject to abuse, is subject to manipulation. It therefore follows that the information that is contained in there, the data that is contained in there, cannot be relied upon. Now, besides that data not being relied upon for development planning purposes, you must also bear in mind that that data plays a very critical role in allowing citizens to decide on who to lead them. It is that information, it is that data that will inform opposition political parties on which people to target, to campaign to, for them to have a chance of winning elections. And if that data is said to be manipulated, then you start to wonder what the relationship is between that data and the data that is being provided by the Electoral Commission of Zambia with regard to voters. What actually even raises bigger worry is that Bayani himself has questioned how 15 wards in the southern province would have registered more voters in the 2021 elections than the census has shown as the total population in those 15 wards in the 2022 census. The question that begs an answer is, how possible was this, that in these 15 wards in 2021 there were more voters than the population that the census found in 2022 in those same polling stations? And when we say the population here, we're not talking about the population of voters, no, but the total population, including those people who are underage, who are ineligible to vote. What happened? You know, this is a glaring revelation which raises concern. And I think that it will be good for government to come out clean on this matter. And the best thing they can do is to just disband the Zamstats board and bring in a new board and restart the census. And because the census is financed by the government and other institutions of governance, such as the UN and so on, and the private sector, it also ought to be brought to the book that those players must also be allowed to monitor the process of enumeration and the process of data analysis and the process of producing the report, so that what we'll end up with is a report that will be generally accepted by all. If the report is disputed now, then all decisions based on the census will be disputed. And we must avoid that, because this is what brings conflict. Yes. If, for instance, today or yesterday you heard the president saying there are some wards, some constituencies that are overly populated, and if we're going to distribute CDF, which he likes very much, if we're going to distribute CDF equitably, then we must start delimitation of these constituencies. Now, if you're going to say Kabwata constituency has so many people, and because of that we're going to delimitate it, but then there is also a ward somewhere which has a similar population with Kabwata, and that ward is going to receive the same amount of support as Kabwata. Obviously the people of Kabwata will ask, can you show us empirical evidence that this ward that you want to equate to Kabwata really has the same number of people? Yes. You see, so the census report is extremely crucial. It is a report that brings people together, and people start to plan based on a similar understanding of the demographics of the country.
Mr. President, as one concerning issue here is that it has the Zamstat report has brought in also revelations from the Electoral Commission of Zambia.
That's a very important question, and you may recall two different
skirmishes to actually manipulate data in wanting to actually rig elections in hindsight.
You also saw how people in some parts of this country were captured on video stuffing ballot papers. There were people who were shown on video, and the police tried to stop them with a slap on the wrist. They found people stuffing ballot papers, but the police just slapped them on the wrist. Stop what you're doing. They didn't arrest. So what I'm trying to say is that quite often people have the notion that it is the ruling party. Now, if, for instance, the people who were designated to go and register these voters were compromised, then obviously they would register underage people, they would register people who are not necessarily supposed to be registered in those particular polling stations and those particular wards. This is evidence. That's what is coming out.
So are we looking at infiltration of the Electoral Commission of Zambia?
I can't discount that.
How then,
it is possible.
How then do you rate the credibility of the Electoral Commission of Zambia?
You know, if it could happen then when we had really independent commissioners, I shudder to imagine what the situation can be now with the non-cadres leading the Electoral Commission of Zambia. Now we know that the Electoral Commission of Zambia is headed by a cadre in the name of Mwangala Zalomis. She can't come on this television station and deny the fact that she is a cadre of the UPND.
What gives you the conviction that she's a cadre?
Because she is a cadre. She is a run-up to the 2021 elections. We saw how McDonald Chipenzi, running an NGO, was campaigning actively for UPND. They were seen in UPND regalia. I mean, a person who is a cadre will be seen by their activities. A person who's neutral, who qualifies to be given the responsibility of running an institution that is meant to be independent, will also be seen from their conduct. But Mwangala Zalomis's conduct in the run-up to the 2021 elections does not qualify her to be considered independent. As a matter of fact, Mwangala Zalomis has always been a political person. You may recall that she was a member of the Central Committee of UNIP. She has always been actively involved in politics. It is the same as taking me after the elections of 2026. You take me and make me chairman of the Electoral Commission of Zambia. For heaven's sake, I don't qualify. The fact that I've been an active politician disqualifies me from heading an institution which is meant to be independent. Even if I was to say I've retired from politics, the fact that I was an active participant in politics for a particular political party, it means that I have that persuasion. And I can't divorce my... Chipenzi even applied to stand as Member of Parliament on the UPND ticket.
What can the political players do to address the concerns that you are raising with regards to Mwangala Zalomis and McDonald Chipenzi?
It is to tell President Hakainde that if you really want to have free and fair elections in 2026, do that which is right. Remove your cadres from the ECZ and replace them with genuine, independent citizens whose interest is to ensure that we have credible, well-acceptable elections. The world is not short of examples of countries that have not known peace on account of the people perceiving of their elections as having been unfair. The world is not short of such examples. And I don't think that Hakainde Hichilema must be blind to that fact and set ourselves for an election that is bound to be disputed. Disputed purely because he has his cadres running the Electoral Commission of Zambia.
That raises serious concerns because already there is this discomfort that you, the opposition, have with the members of the Electoral Commission of Zambia. So going into the 2026 elections, don't you think that the outcome will be...
I want to emphasize that even now, I personally have no respect whatsoever for the outcome of the elections we have held in Kawambwa, in Pambashe, in Petauke.
Even Petauke?
Even Petauke.
Which you won?
Which we won. I have no respect for those results.
You think there were skirmishes to manipulate even in Petauke?
The reason why I have no respect for them is because they were superintended over by cadres. And knowing cadres like myself, I have an interest to serve for my party. Okay?
That can't be divorced from you.
That can't be divorced from me. I am on this television program here because I'm a cadre of the Patriotic Front, a cadre of the Tonse Alliance. And I'll say things here in the interest of my political party. And when you give me a government job, surely I'll be biased towards my political party. Now, if you have a person whom you don't trust to handle an election for you, and you win, do you clap your hands and say we've won? No. You say we have won because probably their shenanigans did not work. And this is what I've said before. I've also cautioned people who have made comments, negative comments about Pambashe and Kawambwa voters, that these people are not sensitive. No! You're making a big mistake. I've heard some people saying, we salute the people of Eastern Province because the people of Eastern Province voted for opposition. Yes, they did, but they did something which probably the people of Pambashe and Kawambwa did not do, which is to ensure that the rigging machinery of UPND and ECZ does not win in Petauke. The youths in Petauke went to polling stations. They stood at polling stations. Simon as a winner. Awinakale, declare. Awinakale. That whole movement is probably what made it impossible for them to rig elections, which they did not do, unfortunately, in Pambashe and Kawambwa. But for me, who was in that area to campaign, when I just recollect the messages people were giving us, teti tubavotera abantu bali kakachirangwa kanshi ekyo bakakire kirangwa balefu okutya tibese basende ekipona kyakwa kirangwa MP weso twasalira efwe ikirema kyesu bakipera omulandu ati ali awo kya motoka akwisha okwocha motoka abutuka kirangwa kuti abutuka asha abantu iyo tatwabapere vote. That's what the people in Kawambwa were saying. That's what the people in Pambashe were saying. And this is the reason why you would draw a contrast on the reactions of people between Pambashe, Kawambwa on one hand, and Petauke on the other. When the results of Kawambwa were announced, there was no celebration.
No jubilation.
No jubilation whatsoever. Not a single person went round rejoicing. And the same happened in Pambashe. But in Petauke, what happened?
There was jubilation.
There was jubilation. Why? Because the people were saying, Nichetanaye kufuna. And in the other two places, people were saying, if we're not, Twadabwa. Inisha voted kunomba, ina voted by Thompson, I voted pali FDD, na voted pali New Congress Party. Number chamone kashana ba winner by UPND what at voted. That's why they did not celebrate. And that is all because of the leadership of the ECZ. And my advice to President Hakainde is that, look, Zambia shall succeed you. You will not succeed Zambia. No. Zambia shall succeed all of us. It is therefore our duty to ensure that while we have this borrowed authority, we use it in the interest of Zambia, not in our small myopic interest. No. We must use this authority in the interest of Zambia. Look at how Edgar Chagwa Lungu, for instance, even when his own provincial chairman was murdered in cold blood on the voting day, he divorced himself from personal interest and he said, Zambia is bigger. Let the people vote. And after the vote was 1 million difference in Zambia, when has it ever happened? All of us were shocked. But Edgar Lungu said, Zambia is succeeding me. Let me.
How do you think the records and the data for the ECZ, for instance, should be reconciled to prepare for the 2026 elections for the areas that have been cited?
It's not only for those areas that have been cited, because that could just be a tip of the iceberg. We need thorough investigation of the whole thing. Bayani mentioned those 15 words for his own reasons. But we do not know the extent to which this happened. It could have happened also in other provinces. It could have happened in Lusaka. We don't know.
Oh, yes.
Now, for us to ensure that we hold acceptable elections in 2026, we ought to ensure that we do two things. Number one, clean up that report, the census report. And you can only clean up the census report by ensuring that you have a new team of people there to conduct a fresh census. On the other hand, clean up the ECZ, have neutral people, and start the registration process again.
Starting the registration process of voters from
from scratch. Because the fact that information has already been availed that the voters' roll is not speaking to the reality on the ground means that the whole voters' roll is questionable. You cannot select only a few and say only these areas. No, it's the total thing that is questionable. So the best is clean up these two institutions. Free them of the people that you have condemned. Government has condemned Zamstad. All right? It's not me. It's not the opposition. It's government itself that has condemned Zamstad. It is the government itself that has disputed and nullified the Zamstad census report. It's not the opposition. For us in the opposition, we're saying the information you are raising creates doubt in the minds of the people's role that ECZ is having. So, how do we solve that? We solve it by starting
the process of fresh. Given the revelations, President Lubinda, how do you, in this instant, speak to the results of the 2021 elections? How do you rate them?
We have always wondered how 2.8 million people voted for Hakainde Hichilema, and having a 1 million gap with an incumbent president who had performed beyond expectation. Then we saw those videos and we were wondering, these videos, to what extent did this happen? Huh? Now, we also are alive to the fact that in many places, the PF polling agents were chased. They were chased, literally thrown out of polling stations. There was nobody to protect our vote. But now there's a third element. The voters' roll was blotted with ghosts. So this really questions whether indeed Edgar Chagolungu lost those 2021 elections. It raises questions, and I'll leave it to academicians. I'm sure that there will be some academicians one day who shall say, let us revisit those results. Moved on with Zambia, and let it be done only for posterity, so that we prepare ourselves, so that the young people of Zambia prepare themselves against a repeat of such an eventuality, where people start to question the credibility of a past election. What we would like is a situation where election results are respected at all times. They must be respected. We mustn't go back to the old days of Kenneth Kaunda contesting against a frog. Huh? Mm-hmm. And even then, there were some people who were saying, I went in that polling station and I voted for a frog. Mm-hmm. And when you question, you see, this is the trouble, and Zambians must understand, and I'm sure Zambians know, that if you have a leadership whose ascension to office of leadership is questioned, is suspect, you have no down of governance. Because then whatever law you pass, the people will not respect it, because they feel that they did not elect you. I don't think that Hakainde would like to have a second term through an election that is going to be generally disputed, that is going to be and accepted. No. I'm sure that he would like to have a second bite at the cherry, going through an election process that is credible, that is accepted by the people.
And do you see yourselves managing to compel government to revisit its appointments in the ECZ? Do you see yourselves convincing government to reconcile the data from Zamstat and Electoral Commission of Zambia as well?
The will of the people reigns supreme. The will of the people reigns. And this is not only for politicians. This is for every. This matter affects every citizen. It affects the unborn. And every Zambian who wants to ensure that Zambia continues on this trajectory of being a unitary state, a peaceful state, a state where there is governance systems, must at this moment stand up and say, no, we will not allow an individual or a group of individuals to put us in a position where we have no respect for our government. No. Every Zambian has a constitutional duty to defend the Constitution. And the Constitution of Zambia provides that we shall be a multi-party state. And if you see that somebody is about to mutilate that doctrine, it is your duty and mine to stand up. It is not only for leaders of political parties, it is the duty of every citizen.
Thank you very much. There you go, viewers. We are debating or discussing Zambia's political landscape. I'm here with my honorable guest in the Vice President of the Patriotic Front and also Tonso Alliance member, Honorable Given Lubinda. Let's join each other in speaking to the issues that are affecting the nation. Find time to call us on the number that is displayed on your screens. Honorable Lubinda, Zambia's foreign debt has jumped from 14.7 billion to 21.6 billion in December. As at August 2021, it stood at 14.7 billion. And as at the end of December 2024, it stood at 21.6 billion. In view of the debt restructuring deal that the UPND government has reached, what does the new debt mean to Zambia? And how do you look at the future with the accrual of this debt?
What this brings to mind is that the Patriotic Front, when it borrowed and brought the debt burden 14 billion by 2021, what was it doing? Where was it taking the money? My contention is that that 14 billion went to develop the infrastructure of this country. It went to develop this country so that it can earn more revenue from which we could have paid the debt.
Just hold your thought, Honorable. Hello, welcome to the platform on Millennium Television. We have the Patriotic Front Vice President, Honorable Given Lubinda in the house. Your question or contribution?
Good evening, how are you?
We are okay.
Good evening, Mr. Lubinda. Oh, sorry, Honorable Lubinda.
Mr. is good enough, don't worry. How are you doing?
All right, we're enjoying the conversation that is being deliberated. And just wanted to encourage Lubinda and let's continue fighting democracy in our nation. Not that I agree to everything that he says, but it's just important to have leaders that can speak out in order for us to have a suitable democracy in our nation, as it helps to bring development to anything that...
1 billion that we borrowed was to build the capacity for Zambia to generate revenue. And that is the revenue that we should have used to pay back the debt. How do I mean by this? Look at the very popular Kazungula Bridge to his predecessor, because it's him who did it. That bridge is earning revenue for Zambia. Okay, we borrowed 14 billion, we put up the Kazungula Bridge. Before then, there was a pontoon. And you can imagine the number of trucks that were being laden on either side of the river. Now, there is no truck because of that investment. Look at the hospitals that we built. Look at the schools that we built. Look at the universities that we built. From that same money, the 14 billion. Look at the roads that we made. Here in Lusaka, I sometimes wonder what could have happened to Lusaka motorists today hadn't it been for the expansion of the road network in Lusaka.
Just hold your thought, Honorable.
My question is from Honorable Lubinda. I remember Honorable Lubinda one time on the session NBC. He was saying, I will come here on this session. Shame you to say Banyala, Tawina. Now I'm very surprised today. Honorable Lubinda is trying to insinuate that the 2021 general elections were rigged. Honorable Lubinda, truly, what assurance do you have now that the one who rigged the 2021 general elections is now seated in the seat? All the security is surrounding him. How possible, how sure are you that you are going to win that 2026 general election? Honorable Lubinda, you were a minister of justice. Can you show us your justice to say when ECZ went to Barungu to say, I am surprised, we are surprised that but my elections in Narusa, we don't know how we lost the elections. Were you in touch with that ECZ or what?
Can you quickly wind up, sir? We accommodate some more callers.
Yes, but Honorable Lubinda, even up on the register, even I point number one, how many trains will end up Sagira Gold and the Samabotu, speak Pagatica, Uzula, it was not possible. So, Latebejo, Baladi Puchitra would have the elections or Bagari Vista would have an election. May God bless you otherwise.
Good evening, Honorable Lubinda, Acting President for PF.
Good evening, Honorable Banda Mulibwanj.
Yes. Mine is a quick one, and there's been so much talk about discrepancies vis-a-vis the related voters and the population in the southern province of 15 wards, but also what every stakeholder should take cognizance of the relationship to 2022 and the 2010 census. The critical age group which you should monitor is in 2010, the age group between 8 and 16 were not eligible to vote. That is the age group which has become eligible to vote in this next period of this coming census. So even if there's been any growth of population, those are not eligible to vote. So the age group which was in 2020, for example, if someone was 8 years in 2010, now they are 18. Those who are 16, if you add 10, actually they are 26. So if you look at those numbers in 2010, those are the people who will register. So the case should be the total registration of a number of voters to be registered in the 2026 general election should not be more than that age group, because it's the age group which has become eligible for voting. And that being the case, that same age group should be cascaded to the provinces like Southern Province, this age group. What are the numbers? And the numbers should not be more than what will register. I think mine is a contribution. Even as we interrogate this matter, there is need, basically, even as we look at some statistics, to interrogate this age group. So that's my case. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Banda.
Thank you. Let me start with Honorable Banda, and I agree with him entirely. Now, what you are talking about, Honorable Banda, is what I was referring to earlier as verification of the figures. It is those statistics and those permutations that you use to see whether indeed the voters' roll is correct, whether indeed the census of population is correct. When you look at the population, you say, the last time at the census in 2010, what was the population? And what is the population growth of Zambia? And that information is always available. You go to Zamstats, they will tell you that there are so many births in the country every year. And using those figures, you can extrapolate and say that in 10 years, this is where the population ought to be. Okay. So if the figures become too drastic away from that extrapolation, then you know that there's something wrong. So that is important to check the statistics. Now, the issue at hand is this glaring revelation that in a particular area, the people who voted were more in 2021, were more than the population in 2022.
Of the subsequent year.
Of the subsequent, how could that have happened? That is the question that ought to be answered. And that's the reason I'm saying that because of those discrepancies, you cannot build numbers on that number, because then you'll be building on a wrong basis. And back to my friend from Kanyama, he himself must be shocked with this revelation. He must be shocked. He must be giving answers. Can he give us answers? How did he must give us those answers. And yes, I am not embarrassed at all to say that in 2021, I was so confident.
Just hold your thought, Honorable Lubinda. Good evening. You are through to the platform on Millennium Television. Your name and where you're calling us from. Then you can continue with your contribution.
Kwa Kanyama kuno naona Lubinda walipatizi hapo wabaisi
wamai
kalibwanju hivi Lubinda
nilibu ino mai mulibwanju ku Kanyama uko na mafloods
tiribu ino mofudika tabe manzi atipaya watate
paya manzi taona tonsi
atate ni soko ndwera ifeta sauka mchipani cha nacho imililani watatu tuli mapazi mwani ndisiwana wantu tuli mapazi mwani watatu tafutika nacho tikipanja tisausa njala tisimaoda singeni satabe maje tikara wana wafutika kwa ni mwanzepo tuzo kudia 3 times 3 meals a day but maje tukudia kamuzi utafutika nao abantu wachoke 2026 siwa fula ngati wavomero familia hapa muoga waimilie kivote.
Thank you very much, Mom. Zikomo.
Nikupe kuti na Musanje amvera. Amusanje naye kunifunza kuti tingazi kabe bwanji kuti tizawina ma elections mu 2026. Nicho nakamba kuti please bahaga inde. Bachose baku ECZ. Mulete bena. And let's start fresh registration of voters so that we can have a free and fair election in 2026. Under the current arrangement, Mr. Musanje, na Kambakale, we can't expect to win under this arrangement. And our Maya Vutika, she wants to vote and remove Hakainde Hichilema. But for as long as Hakainde Hichilema continues with this voters' roll, which has been disputed, continues with this census report, which has been disputed, continues with ECZ under the leadership of Mwangala Zalomis, that woman, after the elections, will also cry and say, vote yanga ya pitakuti. So please let us prepare ourselves. Musanje, let us prepare ourselves. Can you give us answers? Tell us on this television. Those people who are stuffing ballot papers.
Hello?
Just hold your thought, Honorable. We have another caller on the line. Caller, you are through to the platform on Millennium Television. Your name and your contribution, please.
Sir, thank you very much. Good evening, Honorable Lubinda.
Good evening, sir.
Yes, sir. I have a question. My name is Moses. I'm calling you from Mazabuka. I just want to ask a question. Yeah, I think Honorable, remember during the period of gassing, there was a young man who was shot by the police, who happened to be my younger brother. Well, he was shot by the police by the name of Evans Musa, if you remember, pretty sure. Hello, Honorable?
Oh, I'm listening.
Is listening?
Yes. That young man was shot. He was at home. I think that was in Kanyama there. That's where he was shot from. Now, asking on basing on the family wasn't compensated, not even a single amount, not even supporting anything on that funeral. I still remember. Now, if my question is, if you are to come back in government, are you going to look at all those issues which happened, like looking at the family of that person who was shot by that time? Because this time around, we have tried our best trying to find a way of us, like, going to the government to try to help us over the same. But that has not happened. Not even a single response has come back. Now, as you are trying, like, as you are pushing to come back into government, are you going to look at those issues which are happened in such kind of a way? Because the family didn't get not even a single support from the government after that happened. But that person was shot by the police. 2 bullets. I still remember. He was shot 2 bullets, and he was buried with 1. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yes, Mr. Simosa, I wouldn't like to comment a lot on...
Let me just bring this caller on board as well. Good evening, you are through to the platform on Millennium Television. Your name and where you're calling us from?
Good evening, Mwansa.
Good evening, Mr. Chilesha, I suppose.
Yes, you are very correct. Honorable Lubinda, good evening.
Good evening, sir. Good evening.
Mwalenda na basata amushuwe chibemba mwalishishi basana walishire kwe chibemba chimwe chitira ulelila daba mucheba kukanwa aifo twamona mulelila nomba mukumitalalika leke ntumitalalike muli umusango nalipo mwisaka mana sana paliyo namba lelo icho mwinga saka mana sana chakwe bati be worried about the meal allowance that UPF scrapped off from the students. Okay? Be worried about the number, even if Millennium now quarter per news bulletin to say 1,800 plus students have gone under what? Under skills training. Be worried about the social cash transfer that has been enhanced. I was checking about the numbers, the people that have benefited from social cash transfer, cash for work, the school feeding program. Be worried about the free violence in the markets. Be worried about the...
we quickly wind up, Mr. Chileshe.
So be worried about the implementation which the UPND are putting in place. So ama numbers are omulelila sensors tafikwe tenchito, but be worried about these things. Efyo mufwire mulelila nafyo alabaka sukulu balatotero mukwe watu mwali chitabwino bachileshe pa kufumyapo PF pandu miwa allowance yali bwela nomba. Thank you so much, Honorable. Ulelila hata bamuchela kukanwa.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chileshe.
Wachileshe na enendefa mitayalike okutira moneni ku bantu abo mwaleba okutya bakalya 3 meals per day nomba mwabeba okutira iyo mwira pose ubwalinga mwapwisha okulya echungulo musunge mukoche mailo mukalya echingala.
We have another caller on the line, Honorable. We can just accommodate this one. You are through to the platform on Millennium Television. Your name and your contribution, please. Mr. Clement, you can go ahead with your contribution. Mr. Clement, would you kindly turn down the volume on your gadget?
Okay. chavo chita tendevo kwanda pati PF na UPND. Because like pati situation tulipo from my youth. UPND kusere kuba kuchita control country yesu. Pas family because Muzambe chikaramba vyakurya. UPF tarishta kasaka pali 190. Manja pakati pa 350 ngamuri 6 pangani. How much are you spending every month? Vyakurya. So ngamosha kupia different ya ni ma conflict kadas ndene zo zinawani. So different ili tueto lomba. Efuti wabwekenga wasafumia kwa makadarizi. But ngatabaka funa kadarizi usiwa ngapwelelewa. Eba bayo painting achinga fashita control. Abe netetu wabwekerepo. Isho itufuetu achite kumone ungeza control shalo chispandaji.
Thank you very much, Clement.
And to add to what Clement is saying, bachireshe nde idishanya sana pakumono okutira bachireshe tabala fo okulanda okutira ayama skulu balelandapo ama university balelandapo who built them bahagainde. Can you tell us imwe bachireshe na ba Munsanje, tell us which school you have built?
Just hold your thought, Honorable. Another caller is through. You are welcome to the platform on Millennium Television. Your name and where you're calling us from? Mkwayaba na mwapeti bakonkanya pono ripusha nangula comment.
Ukulanda kwa bachireshe kaibe na bale kwanisha. Ifo fwe bachire kwanisha tulino obulanda sana. Ama skulu twale replace ali mpia ko batinga kana omuntu kulipila. Ubunga twale shita wanushani. But ubunga pali no shita tulesto ubunga shinga. Which means tulipilira maskulu mubunga. Eronga twalolesha fwe bambira tukwata mafamili ya bafyashi besabale kwanisha okushita buli obunga. Inende kwanisha kwatyo right. Bati bamayo kulya tabale kwanisha kushetukala kwanisha na bamatule bapera ko. Twale baponsera kapia pano nfina bene balishita. Twalolesha kuna bana bachikweta abana bakubafwa. Nabena bala ikala shani twilolesha jiskulu. Isukulu tulipilira mubunga. Emo tulipilira esukulu. Emo kwa yupo na perera.
Elio bamebo okutira ati free education but baisa lunda fuel. So tumwana poka ku skulu impia isha kumpela isha kutyanine bus. Shide fumakwi bachireshe ati abana ba skulu bare bapera meal allowance. Mwampera meal allowance umwana kafye umupa family baba iche bakwe kunganda balela alensala abasambira cyane umwana ambo kusemba meal allowance bamupela ilia atuma kuri banina kumushukutia tipo byashiteko obunga. Nishi, what have you done? You're talking about social cash transfer. That social cash transfer mulela ndapo bachireshe mulela nda chishinka iyo social cash transfer ni futu ayambire ba PF teba UPND yo tapali ili yonse program bamba ba UPND on their own. All they are doing is just increasing on what we did. Mwapela abantu 36 million kwacha mwayumfo nokuyumfwa ndeba pela 36 million kwacha per constituency inena le kwata fe 1 million 1.6 million. And I was planning that 1.6 million with the people of Kabwata. No, they are giving 36 million, and yet the one who's planning is the Minister of Home Affairs. Police, Minister of Health.
Honorable, we pick our last caller, and we come to the closing remarks and close the program. You are through to Millennium tonight, to the platform on the Millennium Television. Your name and where you're calling us from?
This is Titus from Kitwe. Onalepo mwabomba sani.
Wino mkwari mulishani kukopala.
Awe, insalafi onalepo. Onalepo, mwila kongirisha abantu ababalisa bailipya kusabaila. Tabeshi befe balira ndapo. Awa waizi pagira onde apana pavipa. Vilala ndefya kulandala ndefya. Onalepo, tuwalifi mwana PF ufe yasha ya bomba. Amasikuzi mwalichula, imisebo mwalipanga. Ifintu ifingi kano fyembofu ishimona ingalanda ukwibatiyo PF shani PF mwalibomba alatulamitasha alatulamibukisha bashire n'obufi bwakwibati fyuyo ikaba pali 12 kwacha ubunga pali 50 kwacha na lelo so apa ubunga lelo budi kwisa ubuwi n'obunga bwatuse tu ubuwi ne baleshisha bumbi vyobunga obo balesi kubunga obo mwaleshisha 120 ubunga tyo ubunga bwali dula sure
kwena alaleso 2026 honorable koseni fye okulanda koseni fye nangu bakitikishe kironganyino kyeswe kya PF bwebati bakipai tule twakola mu backing continuous okulandira abantu bwera kongerera bamuserera kwagaba abena kyabinga ababalerya PF eyabatwala pamulu batireero baisa chinjisha PF ama nokulala nje fintu ifi bipali wa Edgar Lungu sure honorable continuous twakola mi parking 2026 tuli bonse twakola mi support tukamisupporta tulife mu makana imwe
Thank you very much, Bataitas. Thank you. Honorable, I want us to now close the program, but before that, we can respond to the issues that have been raised, and in under 3 minutes, we also give our final remarks, and speaking especially to the issue of the Zamstat scandal.
Well, I've covered the Zamstat issue, but let me respond conclusively on the issue of debt.
Okay.
I was explaining that we borrowed 14 billion and we invested. And we borrowed that 14 billion over a period of 10 years. 14 billion over a period of 10 years. 1.4 billion per year. These guys, in 4 years, 7 billion. In 4 years, 7 billion. We can point to where we spent the 14 billion. Can they point where they have used the 7 billion? Where? Which school have they built? Which hospital have they built? There are no drugs in hospitals. They are full, littered with scandals. Scandals over drugs. They buy drugs from Egypt through an agent and they lie to the Zambian people that this is a government-to-government transaction. Those drugs are marooned, and the Zambian people, the taxpayer, those women who are crying in Kanyama because of floods, are the ones who are paying tax, which was used to pay the fellow who was the owner of the yard where they were keeping our drugs. And those drugs, when they came into Zambia, they are all expired. Huh? Now, where is the 7 billion? When we were in government, we used that 14 billion to subsidize fuel. That was the reason why fuel was cheap. We subsidized electricity. We built new electricity dams and hydropower stations. What have they built out of that 7 billion? Now they are even making Zambians to subsidize foreigners. Zambians today, you and me, my brother, when you earn your salary, that pay as you earn is what is being used now to subsidize the mines. How can you have a government that says to foreigners, you can mine our copper, but don't pay any mineral royalty tax? It is the same as getting a person, you give them a house. Come and live in my house, and while you're living in my house, you can do gardening. But the revenue from the garden is yours, take it. And even the rent for my house, don't pay me. Then people say you are insane. Okay? Because what you say is, no, please, if you don't want to give me any money from the gardening, but my house, this is my house, pay rent, I built this house. Huh? Now, you have a government which has borrowed 7 billion, we don't know where it has gone to, and then they go and get money from NAPSA to do the Lusaka Ndola dual carriageway. And they don't give it to Zambians to do that work. They give it to a Chinese company. You bring a Chinese company from China, come and do the Ndola Lusaka dual carriageway, we'll give you all the money. And even before you start building the road, we're going to give you control over the toll gates. Collect all the money from toll gates. Vane, who does that? Who does that? You take money from your wife, you give it to somebody that build our house here, build it. This money is from my wife, but build this house, and you use this house for 25 years. Get rent from this house for 25 years. Only after 25 years, that's when we'll come and get it. Is that what you want as a country? So the issue is that the Zambian people are suffering. And I've said before, and I want to say it again, the so-called 2.8 million people now are with that. The people of Zambia, even Bachileshe, even Monsanje, the reason they were going out campaigning was because they believed a lie. Hakainde was voted for based on an illusion. He lied to the Zambian people. And videos are there. Everybody can see them. Mwansa can see those videos. He must be sincere. You don't support simply because you want to support. You must have sincerity of heart. Hakainde told us that me have already got pledges, $25 billion in pledges. Okay. Why are we hearing about 7 billion debt? Why did those pledges come? In conclusion, my fellow Zambians, the elephant in the country now is the revelation that was made by Beani, that President Hakainde instructed Zamstats to manipulate the report. That is the big elephant in the country. And unless we solve that problem, there will be nobody who will have respect in Zamstats. And because the Electoral Commission of Zambia registers voters from amongst the population of citizens, which population has been disputed, then even their registration is in question. And this is a call on every Zambian to demand that if and when they are put on the voters register, their vote will count. And their vote can only count if there is credibility in the data, there is credibility in the system. For as long as there is no credibility in the system, I'm afraid that Zambians will not go to the